Squeeze Box by Tom Johnstone. Right, so that's 3 of us, said Pat. Where's the big man? Jim sighed. He'll be late for his own funeral. Jim, Pat reproved him. Well, it's no as if he has to traipse all the way to the village hall for rehearsal. Wait a minute. You don't think he's turned up there, do you? Of course not, said Zara, remembering the signs outside saying, closed until further notice. Imagine him carrying that dirty great accordion of his all the way down there in the pissing rain and finding it all locked up. There's no way he'd have done that. You did know Willie was shielding, didn't you, Jim? No, I didn't, he said, sobered by her sharp tone. Anyway, the Zoom call was his idea, Pat pointed out. A way to keep the band going during lockdown. Jim rolled his eyes. He was sceptical about the whole Zoom thing, but no more so than Willie was about Zara's piping abilities. It had taken a lot to win him over. She remembered comments like, "Sounds like someone's dying, hen," grumbling out of his white beard. Still, you'd think he'd have made it as far as his laptop, said Jim. What, dragged himself from his sickbed, you mean? Said Pat. Sickbed? Said Jim. He's ill, is he? I don't know, said Pat. But I haven't heard from him since last week. I just hope he's okay. Jim had pointed out the lag prevented them from rehearsing properly. Nevertheless, the 3 had their respective instruments ready, Jim's mandolin, Pat's fiddle, Zara's pipes. Only Willie was missing with the heftier rhythm instrument. Not that they were going to play together. Each of them would play a tune they'd learnt to the others, then email the scores around the group. It would be a nice way to have a chat and catch up, even if they couldn't meet physically, let alone play Ceilidh's. That way, when the weather became decent enough for them to rehearse outside, keeping 2 meters distance, they could do so easily. He might be having problems logging on, Pat pointed out. True, Jim agreed. He is something of a technophobe. Why don't we just play what we've got, Zara suggested. He can join the call when he's ready. Aye, why not? Jim's acquiescence was grudging, and he made no move to begin. They all looked at each other, well, insofar as it's possible to make eye contact on a video call. It was as if no one was willing to go first. Eventually, Zara said, "Okay, I'll give it a go." She adjusted her chanter, then began inflating the bag. The drone blared out. Then she went into a mournful pibroch, a lament for the Ceilidhs they'd never play. It was all very well doing everything online, but nothing could beat the thrill of a mob of real people dancing to your tune. This used to be a wonderful, positive thing. Now it could be lethal. She imagined spectral dancers cavorting listlessly to the melancholy skirl of her pipes. There was a ping on her laptop from Messenger. She broke off from her playing to look at the source of the sound, saw that Jim and Pat were doing the same with whatever devices they were using. Bit of a dirge, that, eh? The message's author was Willie. I mean, I'm no dead yet, said the next message. Pat laughed with relief. All right. Glad to hear it, Willie. Now, how's about you get your ass on here and play your squeeze box, said Jim. There was no reply, but a black, blank square appeared with their absent friend's name on it. Right, said Jim. I'll play mine while we wait for him to figure out how to work the camera. Maybe he needs help, said Zara, as Jim began tinkling on his mandolin. Shh, said Pat. Jim stopped playing. The only sound was a hissing noise, like someone using bellows on a fire. That, or the wheeze of laboured breathing. Is that your accordion, Willie? Pat wondered. You might want to try pressing the buttons in that, added Jim. I've heard that works wonders for the sound. Here come the 3 dots of doom, Pat muttered ominously. Zara could see the dance of the ellipses, telling her someone was typing again. Finally, the reply came. I know that, Jim. Only this isn't an accordion. There was silence, as the 3 musicians tried to imagine what the sound could be otherwise. Eventually, Jim spoke. Well, if you're playing show and tell, Willie, now might be a good time to switch your video on. When the picture came, Willie's craggy, white-bearded face still didn't appear. All Zara could see was an ashen-looking figure lying on a steel-framed bed in what looked very like a hospital intensive care unit. As well as the rhythmic hissing wheeze they'd taken for an accordion, machinery hummed and beeped. Zara could almost smell the astringent disinfectant odour and the damp, stale smell of despair. Is that? Pat asked. The man was beardless, probably shaved to aid intubation. But what he lacked in hirsuteness, he made up for in size. Aye, Jim confirmed. That's our Willie, all right. The 3 dots of doom danced again. Then, ping! Sorry for saying goodbye like this, but there was nae other way. Goodbye? Pat repeated. I said I wasn't dead yet, the message pinged, as if in answer to her. But it's no looking great. But how's he? Jim wondered, his fingers plucking nervously at his mandolin strings. Zara, I'm sorry I doubted you. You're a natural. Pat, just keep doing what you're doing with that fiddle. How's he typing? Jim finished. Never mind how. You're the only folk I've got, so I found a way, Jim. Now stop twiddling about with that bloody mandolin. It's time you took up the accordion instead. Only Pat's sobbing broke the silence now. Right. I'm tired. Could you all go now? Dying's like pissing. I cannot do it while someone's watching. One by one, they all left the meeting. Jim, Zara, Pat, then finally, Willie.